Okay, friends. How are you guys? Hold on 1 second. Okay, good. So, I know it's Friday morning. Do this, but we are doing a special part two of what we did last night. We started talking about the Enneagram and why it matters for your business and your personal life and your relationships and your leadership. So, we're going to plow through this morning. Now, if you did not watch last night, you need to go watch last night. I'm not going to go through last night. We did a pretty significant introduction on what the Enneagram is and why it matters for your business. So you'll want to watch that first before you dive in here. Okay. So, hi, friends. Happy Friday. Good morning. This is what's crazy. I'm doing my Christmas stuff this weekend, y'all, which I'm not feeling it. Like I'm not ready yet, but I just was looking at the calendar and I was like, I don't have any other time. What issues are you talking about, Cass? What's in eating? You're gonna have to tell me what that means. You like my shirt? Thanks. I buy things to make my kids happy sometimes. Um, I was waiting to see what Cass said. Morning, Becky. How are you? So again, if you did not watch last night's your video, I know. I started to type Enneagram part two, and I was like, forget it. It's like I would have to go all the way back out and come back in, and then it still won't let me type it right. So I'm like, I'm just going to edit it whenever afterwards. It's fine. Hi. Hi. School. Okay. Homeschool's rough, y'all. Yeah. So, welcome back to Online Steps to Success. This is a special Friday morning edition, and we are covering the Enneagram. We started last night, so if you did not watch yesterday, go watch it first. You're going to need the background and understanding, or it's going to be like me talking gibberish. We're going to go through the last 6 types. We did a big introduction last night in the first 3 types, and then we're going to go into the last 6 types. So are we ready? We're going to dive in. Okay. So last night we did the top triad up here, which is the anger triad, the gut and body processors, the 8s, 9s, and 1s. We are going to move to the heart triad. So these are our more feeler, more emotional types. So we're going to go to 2. So if you're taking notes, we're going to 2 right now, moving to the heart triad. And 2 is the helper. I'm going to try not to cough. Hey, babe, I don't know if you're watching this, but if you are, I might need some of that cinnamon tea in a minute. We'll see if he's watching. I don't know if he is or not. Okay, so the helper. Let me get myself situated here. Type 2 is the helper. Yeah, I'm going to need tea. So the helper is, I love 2s, by the way. I just love them. I love healthy 2s. The helper is the caring interpersonal type. They're empathetic, sincere, and warm-hearted. They're friendly, generous, and self-sacrificing. They are driven to be close to others. Connection with other people is incredibly important to them. They are naturally empathetic. So when I talk about empathy and how learning the Enneagram gave me empathy for other types, that was kind of a learned thing. 2s are naturally empathetic, and they're very sensitive to other people's needs. They are generous with their time and energy, sometimes too generous. They value and are attracted to love. They envision making the world a more loving place. So we talked about 1s last night. 1s want to make the world a better place. 2s want to make the world a more loving place. They nurture others and foster relationships. They believe that they gain love and self-regard by being needed and by giving others what they feel they need. So oftentimes an unhealthy 2 will overhelp. I'm sure that right now you're thinking of some twos in your life, or you might be a two. If you watch This Is Us, I was just watching season 3 last night. Rebecca is a two. She is very much a two. I just watched the episode where baby Jack is in the hospital and she has all these notes and she's there and she's willing to do anything. She's a two. They often do things for others in order to be needed. So when they're not healthy, that's one of the things that they can do. They typically have problems taking care of themselves and acknowledging their own needs. If you ask a two what they really want, they will oftentimes have trouble articulating it to you, especially if they're not healthy. They can give to get. So that means like they'll give something or serve in a way to get love back from you. They think with their feelings. Remember, we're in the heart triad, so this is all feeling based. They help without asking others if they want help sometimes. They can be controlling and intrusive. They will get upset and vengeful if they're not appreciated. At their best, healthy twos are unselfish, altruistic, and have unconditional love for themselves and for others. So they go to 8 in stress. So this is what's interesting about a two. Twos are very sweet and kind and loving. But a two under stress will take on the worst parts of 8, which is the challenger. So they'll become very demanding, very stubborn. They'll want to pick a fight kind of thing. That they get like that worst part of 8 when they're unhealthy. But they go to 4. Twos go to 4 in health. And a 4, which we haven't done yet, but the best parts of 4 is that they're very creative. They're very understanding of their own needs when they're healthy. They're just like these creative, amazing people. And so twos become much more, I almost want to say a little bit more centered on themselves, but they need to. Hi, boo. Yeah.
Can I have my Christmas tree?
Sure. Yeah. I love it.
And can I have this?
Sure, that's yours. Okay. There might be interruptions. Okay. Hi, Heidi. I'm glad you're catching us live. So if you didn't watch last night, I will tell you you're probably lost. It's fine. You've got to go watch last night and then catch up here. But you can watch today. You just might not know totally what I'm talking about. Okay, so more things about the two. Their basic fear is being unworthy of being loved or that they won't be needed. They really need to be needed. Their basic desire is to be loved and wanted. This is all about love. This is all about being needed. They can deteriorate. So when they're unhealthy, they can deteriorate into the need to be needed. So they'll often, I talked about this earlier, they'll do things like without asking, that kind of thing. Their wounded message is that it's not okay to have your own needs. So that's what they've kind of started to believe, that it's not okay for them to have their own needs. That's why they'll often not be able to articulate what they actually need or want. Their lost childhood message, the thing that they need to hear, is that you are wanted. Their gift is unconditional love, and their passion, their deadly sin, can be pride. So they'll do all these things to help, and then they want to say those things. They want to say, but I did all this stuff when they're unhealthy. Pride in focusing all their attention on meeting the needs of others while refusing to acknowledge to themselves or others that they have personal needs of their own. Okay, those are twos. The superpower of a two, though, is that because they are positive and people-oriented, twos will support the best interest of any of the family, of the organization, while making sure everyone feels uniquely valued. They are very good at this. There's a song, which I'll tell you about this. There's a whole album by Sleeping at Last. It's part of his Atlas album. And there's a song for each type. And it's really actually, he did a podcast on each type. So he talks about how he wrote the song, how he researched the number, why he wrote the words he wrote, the things he put in anyways. But one of the lines in the two song is, I'll give you the breath from my lungs so you can breathe. Ugh, it like cuts me to the core. Like if you know twos, like that is 100% true. So My mom is a 2. And when I heard the song, I was just like sobbing. I'm like, this is 100% true of my mom. 2s are amazing. Okay, so that's 2, the helper. So we're going to go to 3s, the performer. So type 3, we're still in the heart triad. Okay, so we're still high feelings. Hi, Jerry. Oh, I missed you this week. Very connected to emotions and feelings, but oftentimes we'll mask them. We'll talk about that. So we're on type 3. They're often called the performer, sometimes called the achiever. Okay, so the performer. Y'all ready? You doing okay? Okay. They are the adaptable, success-oriented type. They are self-assured, attractive, and charming, ambitious, competent, and energetic. They are highly competitive, can be highly competitive. They're efficient, active, and busy. They're personable. They're practical. They can be status conscientious. They are highly driven for personal advancement and achievement. They're often concerned about their image and what other people think about them. You'll understand a little bit more about that why when we talk about their basic fear. They truly believe that people are accepted for what they do and not who they are. So this is like a false belief that they have, but that's why success is so important to them, because they think that their value comes from what they do, not simply in who they are. They believe that they gain love and self-regard by approval and achieving success by working hard to be the best and maintaining a good image and masking their own feelings. So they're highly emotional and feeling people, but they try to mask those feelings out of self-protection. They may have problems with workaholism and competitiveness. So these are like your highly competitive. They will often overwork because they're searching for their value, right? They can be impatient with others who don't get a job done fast enough. They may take over jobs that others, I just said that. Oh, no, it's different. They may take over jobs that others aren't doing fast enough. So if you're not doing it fast enough, they may hop in and say, okay, I can do it quicker. They are very unaware of their true feelings, and that's because they're masking them. Impending failure and doing too much causes them stress. They tend to promote themselves or their family members. At their best, healthy 3s are self-accepting, authentic, and everything they seem to be. Role models who inspire others. When they're not healthy, a 3 has a tendency to be inauthentic because they're trying to hide something that they don't want to deal with. They're not really doing it on purpose always, but they're trying to appear good even when things aren't good. Okay. Vanessa, yes, you need to go to sleep. Catch the replay. And also, if you didn't catch last night, you need to watch that first. So the basic fear of a performer, we're on type number 3, is that they are worthless or without inherent value. It's their biggest fear. Their basic desire is to be valuable. It's one of the reasons they work to gain value. They can deteriorate into chasing after success. Their wounded message is that it's not okay to have your own feelings and identity. That's why you'll often see them. That's why they're called the performer. People will refer to 3s as chameleons sometimes because they can put on the mask of whatever needs to be achieved in the moment. So if they need to be more aggressive in a situation, they will. If they need to be more laid back in a situation, they will. Like, they are really good at pretending sometimes. Their lost childhood message, this is the thing they need to hear, is that you are loved for yourself. Just simply for who you are, not for anything that you do. You are loved for yourself. Their deadly sin, their passion is deceit. So they can be very deceitful when they're unhealthy because, remember, they're looking to gain value. And if they're not doing it, they'll try to pretend that they're doing it. So they can be deceitful. An unhealthy 3 would be one to cut corners to get a job done just so it can be done so they can feel valuable. When, if you look at somebody else, like say a 1 is more centered around what is good, what is right, and what is wrong. And so they are far less likely to cut corners. They want to make sure it's done right. So that's when they're unhealthy, is threes will do that. That deceit, that deadly sin is often them deceiving themselves. Their superpower is that they are optimistic and resilient people who dream big and inspire others to follow them. They are strong, strong leaders. They have an ability to quickly read the values, preferences, and expectations of a group and alter their appearance to please the crowd. That's why they're called the performer or the achiever. They're really cool people. Some of my favorite people. They're all cool. Here's the thing. And this is what I don't know if I hit on this enough last night. All of the types have their really awesome parts and their really bad parts. There is not one that's inherently better than the other. They're all pretty screwed up and all beautiful at the same time. So that's one thing you need to keep in mind. I know a lot of people who have found out what they are and they're like, I don't want to be that. We all kind of feel like that because the icky parts are icky for everybody. Okay, let's go to 4. We're going to romantic. Oh, no, I didn't talk about stress and health, did I? Nope, sure didn't. Let's talk about that in 3 real fast. So 3 goes to 9 in stress. So it's all backwards. So the 3 goes to 9 in stress. Remember, the 9 is the peacemaker. But the worst parts of 9 is that they become sloth-like and inactive. So when 3s are unhealthy, they will become indecisive. They will not work, but not in a healthy way. It's in a, like, they just don't know what else to do kind of way. So they take on the worst parts of 9. They can become indecisive, complacent, sloth-like, that kind of thing. And they go to 6 in growth. So the best parts of 6, so here's 6. 6s are incredibly loyal. That's why they're called the loyalist. The best parts of them are that they are loyal to a fault. They can be very compassionate when they're healthy. So they become a little bit more seeing the big picture of things and not being so concerned with their image, if that makes sense. Okay, thanks, Amy. So now we're going to go to 4. The romantic. These are some of my favorite people ever. So we're still in the heart triad. We just did the helper and the performer. We're going to the romantic. So another word for this type is often, you'll hear them referred to as the individualist. They're very creative. You'll see sometimes people refer to 4s as the artist. Still in the heart triad, still very much in feelings. You're going to feel the feelings here with the romantic. Okay, so type 4, the romantic. They are the romantic, introspective type. They're self-aware, sensitive, reserved, but they can be very quiet. They're very emotionally honest and personal. You're going to pretty much know how a 4 feels. They're attuned to their feelings, highly creative, also highly intense sometimes, and full of passion. They have this romantic idealism that often can be detrimental to them and their relationships because they think that there's something better. Sometimes they have this very Cinderella-esque picture of what romance should be like. And it can be detrimental to them sometimes. They have deep emotional depth, more so than any of the types, I would say, and they're in tuned to it. They very often feel misunderstood. They like to be treated as special or unique. I call the romantics the queens. They are the queens. They don't want there to be any other 4s. They want to be the only one. And they want to be, they do not like being put into a box. And so many of the 4s that I know who found out they were 4s, did not want to be 4s because they didn't want to be typed. They want to be individual. They think that they must keep searching for an ideal love or perfect circumstance to make them feel loved, whole, and complete. They can be very moody. They may withhold themselves from others due to feeling vulnerable or defective. They can also be very judgmental when they're not healthy. They can feel disdainful and exempt from ordinary ways of living. So these are, if there's a definition of extra, 4s are that. They have this want for things to be special and different, and they don't want things to be ordinary. They typically have problems with self-indulgence and self-pity. So there are certain types that are more prone to addiction than other types. 4 is one of them. 7 is one of them. I can't think of the other one. There's 3 that are much more prone to addiction. 4 and 7 are 2 of them. Maybe I'll get there and I'll remember. They want to be understood, not changed. So that goes back to like, I want to be seen for who I am. I want to be unique and individual. I don't want you to change me. This is how I am. They resist changing for fear of losing their individuality. Again, this is all about being unique and special. At their best, healthy fours are inspired and highly creative. They're able to renew themselves and transform their experiences. So they go to 2 in stress. So that means they become that over helper. Remember, 2's helper. So when they're stressed, they go to 2 and they get the worst parts of 2, which are those helping to be needed or overstepping their bounds, giving people things they may not even need, becoming very like prideful and, but I did this for you. Like, what do you have for me? Okay. That's where they go to in unhealth. In health, they go to 1. So 4s can become very reformer-esque. They can take all this creative energy and they want to like change the world with it. And they want to do something special with it. And they want to help people be better. So they get the best parts of 1 when they're healthy. Okay. So the basic fear of a 4 is that they will be without identity or personal significance. So this all goes back to that personal identity, feeling special and unique. Their basic desire is to be themselves, but they often have trouble with that because they're trying to fit a mold or align with other people. And so that's what they want. They want to be themselves. They can deteriorate into self-indulgence. Their wounded message is that it's not okay to be too functional or too happy. And they truly have this deep-seated belief that those things aren't okay, that if they're too happy, something's going to happen. If they're too functional or too normal, like that's not okay, then they're not unique enough, okay? Their lost childhood message and the thing they need to hear from the people around them is that you are seen for who you are. They want to be seen and they just want to be who they are.
Mommy, can I share my iPad?
Sure. Their gift when they're healthy is emotional balance and creativity. They are like the most creative people in the world. And their passion, their deadly sin is envy. So they will often look at other types or other things. And even though they want to be uniquely them, they'll become envious of what other people have. Their superpower is that they're the most creative type on the Enneagram, and they always bring out what's special in other people. The 4s in my life, I don't have that many. I mean, really like 2 that I know well. They do make me feel uniquely special. It's such a gift that they have. Like, it is a sweet, sweet gift. They are the coolest, the queens, as I call them. 4s are the queens. Okay, let's go to 5. Take it to dad. Take it to dad and tell dad I want some tea. See if the 4-year-old can relay the message. Okay, are you guys doing good? Okay, we're going to move to, there's like 40 of you here for the whole thing. The rest of people are like on and off. Like, I have no idea what we're talking about. Oh, Tiffany said 4s love tattoos. That is a true thing. Like that uniqueness of having tattoos and like being different, that's a huge 4 thing. That does not mean they're the only kind that get tattoos. Everybody gets tattoos. But 4s really love tattoos because it's that I'm unique and special kind of thing, right? Okay, so we just did all of the heart triad. We just talked about feelings and shame. Actually, I didn't talk about shame, but basically all of our heart people and our feelers, there's always underlying shame somewhere. So we're going to move to the head, the last 3. Are you ready? So these are our head processors, our thinkers. You'll see that there's a lot of fear in these, which is going to be funny when we get to 7. You're like, how would a 7 be fearful? You'll see. So we're going to go to 5. Oh, that says observer. So 5s are called the observer. They're often called the investigator. You can call them either one. Did you tell Daddy I wanted tea? What did he say?
He said,
Yes to tea?
you want my...
She just realized I was on camera.
Are you talking?
I am. I'm talking to my friends. We're learning something.
Yeah, those are my friends.
Yes, they're your friends too, for sure. Would you like to say hi?
What else Is that Kingston?
No, Kingston's not on there. Can you say hi, friends?
Hi, friends.
Hi, friends. Okay, go get your iPad and tell Dad I want cinnamon tea. Can you say cinnamon?
Cinnamon.
Great. Okay, 5, the investigator. My friend Tiffany is a 5. Okay, so the investigator. Ready? They are the intense cerebral type. So these are thinkers, these are brain processors, huge cerebral types. They're alert, insightful, and very curious. They're able to concentrate and focus on developing complex ideas and skills, and they can do it for a long amount of time. They are independent and innovative. They're very knowledgeable. They have a deep calmness in crisis. They're respectful and thoughtful. They keep confidences. They're dependable. Also, here's something else. Anytime I'm like saying positive things, this is when these people are healthy. Anytime I'm saying negative things, this is when they're unhealthy. Okay. Hi, Chrissy. They have an appreciation of simplicity. They're very scholarly. They believe they lack inner resources and that too much interaction with others will lead to catastrophic depletion. They try to learn everything there is to know before taking action, and that can oftentimes be debilitating to a 5. So when you think about, for instance, somebody joining your team, 5s will join your team, but they will not join your team until they know everything there is to know, more than likely. They'll want to know all the things. Tell me everything. Whereas a 3 may jump on board just because you say, you'd be really great at this. Okay, sign me up. It's just totally different, okay? 5s can become preoccupied with their thoughts and imaginary constructs. They can also become detached, but also high-strung and intense. They may have problems with isolation and skepticism. Too much emotional input may cause anger and defensiveness. Being considered factually incorrect will also cause defensiveness. They don't want to be wrong, and that's because they put a big value on what they learn and how they educate themselves about something. They may withhold time with others to conserve energy. Having desires, needs, and wants that lead to dependency cause stress for them. At their best, healthy 5s are visionary pioneers, often ahead of their time, and able to see the world in an entirely new way. Okay, so that's upside down. They go to, so a 5 observer or investigator is going to go to 7 in unhealth. So the worst parts of 7 are that they can be very gluttonous. They can be very scattered. They can be on one thing and then on another thing, and they jump back and forth between things, and they have trouble focusing.
He said he just slapped his finger and he didn't let me he didn't bring me that coffee.
He didn't bring me that tea. Yeah, he snapped his finger at you.
Mm-hmm.
He must be on the phone. Is he on the phone? So you have to wait until he's done. You can't just interrupt, okay? Okay.
Okay.
Hey, can you go find your Barbie with the baby dolls? Because the babies probably need you right now. Can you go find him? Yes? No? Okay. 5s go to 8 in growth. So the best parts of 8s are incredibly loyal, very protective of their herd. They are not afraid to speak their mind. No, not right now. Maybe in a second. They're not afraid to speak their mind, and they're not afraid to stand up for what is right. So they go to those best parts of 8. Okay. The basic fear of a 5 is being useless, incapable, or incompetent. Their basic desire is to be competent. They want to know what they're talking about. That can deteriorate into useless specialization. So an unhealthy 5 will know like a lot of things about a lot of things, but there's no like necessity to any of it, right? This is the person you would call, like with your, phone a friend on what's that, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire show. Is that what it's called?
No.
That's not. I just lost my train of thought. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Like they know things, but oftentimes it's without any good purpose if they're not healthy. Their wounded message is that it's not okay to be comfortable in the world. Their lost childhood message, the thing they need to hear, is that your needs are not a problem. Their gift is wisdom, and their passion, their deadly sin, is avarice, which is a need to withhold and safeguard what little they have.
I'm coloring something on you.
You can color on me, but you can't talk when I'm talking. Rather than a desire to get more stuff. So they can become, it's almost like a hoarding mentality where they want to hold on to everything really tight-fisted. In a self-protection kind of way. Their superpower is that their perceptive nature and objectivity makes them great at giving advice. They are super, super cool people. Okay, we have two more. So we're still in the head triad. We're going to go to the loyalist. So the 6 is the loyalist.
6.
That's right. It's a 6. All right. So, upside down again. So 6, here we go. Loyalist, still in the head triad, fear. You're going to see fear really dominant here. Okay, the loyalist, you ready?
Yeah.
They say that there are more 6s than any other type and that there are less 4s than any other type. So the least number is 4 because they're queens and they like that.
Wow.
Hey, leave that alone. That's our microphone. And there's more 6s than any other type. I said don't touch it. If you can't listen to Mom, you're going to have to step out. Okay? Okay. So the loyalist. They are the committed, security-oriented type. They're reliable, hardworking, and very responsible. They can also be defensive, evasive, and very, very anxious. They're often cautious and indecisive. They can be reactive, defiant, and rebellious. They're very trustworthy, questioning, and that means they question themselves and they question everything else. They are worst case scenario thinkers.
Hello?
Shh. Hey, I need you to be quiet. Okay? Which means that these are the people that will always think all the way through the worst case scenario. A 7 will think about a situation and think it's all going to work out. It'll be fine. A 6 will do not push that button. Sorry. A 6 will go all the way through the worst possible scenario of what could happen, and they will think of every situation of how they could get out of it. Okay? They are always looking for double meanings or hidden meanings if they're unhealthy. So it's kind of like that, how would I even describe it? Like they're thinking maybe that you have an ulterior motive when they're unhealthy. They will play the devil's advocate. They may have problems with self-doubt and suspicion. Remember, that goes back to like, why would you ask me that? Why would you say that? That kind of thing. They're looking for certainty. They will pressure themselves to deal. When they pressure themselves to deal with uncertainty, it causes them stress. They have a disbelief in their own capabilities or decisions. They can be sarcastic, accusatory, and highly defensive. They can be overly controlling and overprotective. At their best, healthy 6s are internally stable, self-confident, and self-reliant, and they courageously support the weak and the powerless. They're super cool. Not good when you're tagged to come watch this. Such a 4. You are such a 4. I see a queen too. Okay, so 6s go to 3 in stress. So they go to the worst parts of 3, which means the oftentimes masking their feelings, trying to be something they're not to please a group, They can be moody and emotional and overcautious. They go to 9 in growth. So 6s go to the best parts of 9, which is a relaxed, calm, peace-filled kind of aura about them instead of this like highly anxious thing. Okay. So the basic fear of a 6, and this will help you understand why they do what they do, is being without support or guidance. It's their greatest fear. Their basic desire is to be secure. They just want everything to be secure and good. That can, when they're unhealthy, can deteriorate to an unhealthy attachment to their beliefs. So meaning like they'll become, if they believe something to be true, whether it is or not, they will be so attached to it that they'll die standing next to it kind of thing. That's when they're unhealthy. Their wounded message is that it's not okay to trust yourself. Their lost childhood message, this is the thing that 6s need to hear over and over again, is that you are safe. Their gift is courage when they're healthy, and their passion or their deadly sin is fear. And it comes in the form of anxiety for 6s. Their superpower is that they will keep your family or your group or whatever you have going on safe. They can come up with a solution to just about any problem because they are worst case scenario thinkers. And so they will think through like, this is the worst thing that could happen. Okay. So I used to have a hard time understanding 6s before I understood the Enneagram because I don't know. There are seasons when I've battled a lot of fear or anxiety, but that's not the norm for me. And so I had trouble like understanding how they see the world. And the more I learned about this, the more compassion and empathy I have for 6s. And then I just get to see the healthy side of 6, and they're just cool people. So guess what? 7s we're about to talk about, y'all. It's upside down every time you pick it up, Allison. Okay. I love 7s. Obviously, I'm married to one. They're super cool and also, just like the rest of us, deeply messed up. It's how it is for every single one. All really cool, all pretty screwed up. Okay, so we're at 7. We are still in the head triad over here. There's going to be fear. You're going to see it. Deep thinkers, cerebral type head. Okay. The 7. Often called the enthusiast, also known as the adventurer. These people are fun. So they are the busy, productive type. They're versatile, optimistic, and spontaneous. Like book a flight to somewhere just out of the blue. It's a 7. They're playful, high-spirited, and practical. They bring joy and laughter to a situation. They're incredibly upbeat. You usually know the 7s in the room because they're full of joy. Yes.
Can I have a second? A second?
Not right now.
Why?
As I said. Is Dad still on the phone?
No.
He's not?
No.
Can you go ask him if I can have some tea? My messenger. 7s can become preoccupied with themselves and what they want. So this is when they're unhealthy. They have a difficulty acknowledging anything negative about themselves because they just think they're the coolest. And they are cool, but they have a hard time acknowledging anything negative about themselves. They are often very unwilling to take steps that involve pain or conflict. 7s will have undealt with trauma or fear for years, decades, that they just won't deal with because they don't want to feel pain. They're easily distracted and diverted from deeper pursuits and commitments. They can also be overextended, scattered, and undisciplined. They are constantly seeking new and exciting experiences, and that comes from that desire to avoid pain. They can become distracted and exhausted by staying on the go. They typically have problems with superficiality and impulsiveness. They think that they must protect themselves from pain and limitations by engaging in pleasurable activities and fascinating possibilities for the future. They also may feel overloaded by all their adventures. They may feel trapped by commitments made. So one of the lines in the song about the sevens is that standing still feels like sinking. That they can't. They want to be on the go. And that's partly because if you stand still for long enough, there's a good chance you're going to feel something, and they are trying to avoid that. People who are stuck and unhappy bring them down. They don't like unhappy people. They just don't, because they don't want to deal with pain. They want to deal with joy. Their defensiveness can come in the form of put downs. They may often, when they're unhealthy, act entitled or superior. So you can often see a 7 acting sort of like an unhealthy 8, even though that's not where they go in unhealth, but it's just that kind of like prideful, I'm better than you kind of thing when they're unhealthy. At their best, healthy 7s focus their talents on worthwhile goals, becoming joyous, highly accomplished, and full of gratitude. So they go to 1 in stress. Whoop. So 7 goes to 1 in stress. It goes to the worst parts of 1. So like the way this works out for Brian is 1s become critically perfectionist, like they're critical about everything. And that's the way it starts to progress in Brian. Like if he's tired or if he's annoyed or, anything like that, it'll be like, why would you do that? Or what do you think you're doing? Or, just this almost to the point where like, sometimes I'm like, that's really not that big of a deal, but it just becomes this critical perfectionism. They go to 5 in growth. So a 7 goes to 5 in growth, which means, no, that's not where 5 is. 5 is right here. They become highly interested in big topics. They can focus for longer periods of time. They'll collect information. That's why Brian, people are like, you'd be the person I'd call, because in times of health, he becomes very much like an investigator, learning about lots of different things. Okay, so the enthusiast, their basic fear is being deprived or trapped in pain. This is why there's always joy and there's always adventures that they're chasing so they don't have to deal with pain. Their basic desire is just to be happy. They want to be happy. In unhealth, it can deteriorate into escapism. So this is where 7s are one of the more highly addictive personalities, because they'll just attempt to escape the way they feel if there's pain. They don't want to deal with pain. Their wounded message is that it's not okay to depend on anyone for anything. Their lost childhood message is that they will be taken care of. That's the thing that they need to know, that they're going to be taken care of.
I was going to ask him, and he just got off his phone for a minute, and I just asked him.
You asked him?
Yeah.
What did you ask him?
I asked him that Mommy needs some tea.
Some tea?
Yeah.
Thanks. What did he say?
He said yes.
He said yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm waiting to do it. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. Their gift is joy when they're healthy, obviously. And their passion, their deadly sin, is gluttony.
I have some of this.
No, I don't know why that's in here. You have to ask Dad. I am not in a place to get that for you right now. That gluttony can be in things or food, but it's also often in experiences and pleasurable experiences. They want joy, and so they'll seek it out however they can get it. Their superpower is that their optimism, creative juice, and boundless energy can move things along at a very, very quick pace. So there you have it. We made it all the way through. Heather says weird facts all the time. Yes, that's Brian Dalkey. Weird facts all the time, because he's got that investigator part of him when he's healthy. I can't, baby. I'll be done in a minute. Take it into the kitchen and stop shaking it up. In the kitchen. Into the kitchen. Take it into the kitchen.
No.
Yeah.
After you just get off your computer.
I know. I'm not off my pewter right now, though.
Get off your computer.
I know. I'm almost done. The more times you come in here, the longer it takes. Can you tell I never look when she's around? She's like, what are you doing? Why are you looking at your computer? Why are you talking to these people? Okay, so we made it all the way through.
Mommy, can you just come?
I will in a minute. You've got to walk out. Go.
No.
Yeah, go tell Daddy I need his help. I feel my critical perfectionism coming to a head at the moment. Okay, so real quick before I let you go, one of the things that I want you to see in all of this, last night somebody got on and said, how does this help my business? And I want to recap that really quickly because it more than you know. One, I think the biggest thing is that one of the biggest mistakes we can make is thinking that everybody thinks about and sees the world the same way we do. And that's just not true. There are deep-seated fears and desires of people that are innately different than ours, oftentimes. And when we think that everybody looks at the world and thinks about things and reacts to the world the same way we do, we've made a huge mistake because we can't expect to lead and encourage and equip people all in the same way when they don't think the same way that we do all the time. And so this becomes really helpful in coaching. It becomes helpful in recruiting and asking people to join your team. I mean, it can be so, I remember before I knew anything about this being so frustrated sometimes like by, you know, if somebody was kind of on the fence about joining and like asking all these questions, like, why does it really matter? Like, just trust me. Like, but there's a high chance a person like that is a 5 that needs to have all this information. And that's just part of who they are. And so it's crazy of me to think that that's wrong, right? That's just, they see the world in a different way and they want the facts and the information. The other thing is, I think it really gives you compassion for people in different seasons of their life. So it can be easy to get frustrated when somebody is not growing their business or dealing with leadership the way you'd like them to. Maybe they're not stepping into leadership the way you want them to. And that, no, I wanted cinnamon tea. Oh. Maybe they're not stepping into leadership the way you wanted them to, and that can become very frustrating. Well, when you get a better understanding of who they are and how they see the world, it becomes easier for you to lead them and you have more compassion and empathy for them. Now, I would guard you against typing people. See, look, Lisa said it took me over a year to join because I was researching. Hello, 5. Yes, that's what a 5 will do. It'll take them a year to join. And like a 3 or a 1 is like, it's the right thing to do. Just do it. Like, Trinity says, do you think it's more important to find out the type of those around you or just yourself? I think it's incredibly important that you start with yourself. I think that to know yourself is one of the greatest gifts. And the thing that I love about Enneagram is not only does it look at here's the good and the bad, but that it also gives you a way out. So as you slip into unhealth and you start to recognize, oh, I'm deteriorating into, so I go to 4 in unhealth and I go to the worst parts of 4, like the super moody, emotional, self-centered kind of part of 4. And I can tell now, I can see it. Like before I knew about this, I just would be like, I'm just having a bad day. Now I can see and look at, okay, I'm slipping into unhealth. What is it that pushed me here? What do I need to remedy that and get back on the healthier side of being a 1? The same is true when I'm healthy. I can recognize I'm more spontaneous, I'm more laid back, I'm more joyful, I'm more willing to go with the flow because I take on those traits of a healthy 7. And I think that's one of the most powerful tools in this is that it gives you a way forward. Yeah, Amanda, you never know. And here's the thing. Marnie says, what if I'm unsure? A lot of people are unsure for a long time where they land. I would just encourage you to dive in and learn more about it. There are so many, there's tons of free resources online. There are tons of podcasts that you can listen to. The podcast I would recommend the most, there's a couple. If you want another quick refresher, I would listen to Don Miller has a podcast called Story Brand, and he recently had Ian Crone on, and they did a 2-part series. It was just last week and the week before, I think, about the Enneagram. So just a brief overview of the Enneagram. And he kind of talks about it in this sense of how does this apply to the workplace? It's still incredibly helpful. It's a good overview of each type. And then Ian Crone's podcast called Typology is incredibly helpful. I also really love Enneagram and Coffee. Sarah Case, she has an Instagram handle called Enneagram and Coffee, and she also has a podcast. There are just tons and tons and tons of resources out there. Anna says, as a 3, I needed to know I could be successful. I was more scared of failing or how I would appear to others. Yeah. I mean, Anna, that's hitting the nail on the head when you talk about your fear is what's it going to look like to other people. And so what's interesting about that, and this is what I love about Enneagram, is the more I learn about other types and the more I hear people say things like that is so true of a 3, exactly what Anna just said. If I were to say something similar, it wouldn't sound like that. I could really give a flip what people think. I want to do what's right. And so it doesn't mean either one of us is wrong or right. It's literally just how we see the world. And so there has to come this compassion and empathy where we start to better understand how each of us thinks and interacts with the world. And it becomes so, so helpful. I also just love the pieces of being able to recognize health and unhealth. I think it's so, so vital. So the biggest recommendation, and I talked about this last night for all of you, besides, free resources online, all sorts of things. I really love this book. It's upside down. The Road Back to You. This is by Ian Crone and Susan Stabile. You can get it on Amazon. Susan Stabile also just wrote a book called The Path Between Us, and it talks about relationships between different types. So, like, for instance, I'll give you an example. Like this says relationships with 9s. 9s need lots of affirmation and affection. So if a 9 has the strength to say an honest no to you, let them know how much you appreciate their honesty and that you aren't going away regardless of their response. And then it gives you other things to think about in having relationships with 9s. It just gives you all these great. So it has like just practical tools for how do I really build healthy relationships with, okay, here's great. Relationships with 4s. Yeah. Don't be afraid to tell 4s when you feel pressured to be more than you can be or to handle more than your part. 4s need to be both unique and authentic. That will require some compromise at times. Anyways, it's just super helpful. I love this one. I love The Road Back to You. There are tons of resources. If you do a deep dive and you really want to get involved, there's 2 things. In terms of leadership, if this is something you really want to push into with your business and the way you lead, I have a book I'm going to show you to you in a second. But this is one of the books that I think is the most practical. Look, it's like a textbook. But the thing I love about this is to truly know yourself. I feel like it gives you so much, so many tools. The thing this one also talks about is, because in reality, there's not 9 types, there's 27 types. Because your type is pretty unique to your wing. So I'm a 1 with a 9 wing. Well, a 1 with a 9 wing is drastically different than a 1 with a 2 wing. Drastically different. So it's kind of like your type and your wing makes your type. And that's different than just a 1, right? But what it does in here is it helps you recognize, it has big old chunks of sections for each type, but it'll tell you like, okay, here's what a healthy 2 looks like. Here's what an average 2 looks like. Here's what an unhealthy 2 looks like. And it gives you like all these, like, this is where you may fall in this range. When we teach this in our home, this has become one of the best resources. It's called The Wisdom of the Enneagram. But then it also gives you steps forward. And that's what I love about this. So it'll talk about, here's the wake-up call for a 2. Here's what they need to, the steps they need to take to become better at being a 2 and being who they were truly made to be. It talks about everything from your type dealing with sex to other people to, everything. It's really awesome. It gives you warning signs. Like when you're going into unhealth, it gives you warning signs for that. So anyways, I really, really love this book. And I think a lot of times, like I would say, for one, this has also helped me drastically in our parenting as we've kind of figured out where our kids land. I used to just think, well, kids are just different. Well, they are different, but like my oldest, And my first two kids are so drastically different. Addie was stubborn and strong-willed, and like discipline was a challenge with her. But with Luke, I just had to change my tone of voice or let him know that I was disappointed in him. He is a one through and through. He does not want to be bad. He doesn't want to make a misstep. And so when you understand that about them, it makes more sense. My 7-year-old Wyatt is a 7. He is an adventurer. He is an enthusiast. He's always looking for the next thing, and he does not like to be in pain. So like when he gets home from school, he is like, Mom, can I go to Noah's house? Mom, can I go to Elijah's house? Mom. And I used to be like, well, he doesn't even like us. Like, he doesn't want to be home. Like, I used to take it really personally until I really learned about who he was. I'm like, oh, no, he's just looking for the next adventure. Like, that's just part of how he works. And that's okay. So it's just given us a lot of help. This one right here that was just here, she's an 8 through and through, wants to be in charge, has strong justice. She will be playing with baby dolls. And if she thinks Brian is going after Wyatt with a sword, she is there to protect her herd. Like, it's funny and amazing. Anyways, so it's been helpful in parenting, but it's also been helpful in our leadership. And I'm going to grab, okay, hold on one second. I'm back. Okay. This book, if you really want to say, like, how does this really apply to my business and my leadership and growing in that, this book right here, The 9 Types of Leadership, is incredibly helpful. It tells you how to work with different types, like in terms of like a workplace and personality. What's great about working with each type, how you can encourage and equip each type, things like that. Now, obviously, like, you're not going to figure out the type of every person on your team and do that. No, but you are going to figure out the types of the people that are really growing, or maybe that you're really struggling with, like, that say they want to grow, but they're not. If you can start to understand where they fall, it might help you. Now, I want to warn you against typing people. Here's the thing, you're going to do it. I know that as we were reading through it, you're like, oh, my mom is this, and my dad is this, and my husband is this, and that's okay. But one of the things I want you to consider is that oftentimes, if those people are not unhealthy, they will take on the characteristics of the type that their type goes to in unhealth. So you may think that they're one thing, but there's a chance that they're just an unhealthy version of something else. Does that make sense? So be careful in typing. That's why it's hard to type other people, and that's why it's hard to take a test to get typed, because the test essentially can identify the things that you do continuously, but it has a hard time identifying why you do the things you do. And remember, that's what actually matters. It's about the motivation. It's not about what you're actually doing. It's about why you're doing it. It all goes back to your basic fear and your basic desire. That's so, so important. Heather said, I scored 3 to 9, but I think I identify most as a 2. So what's interesting about that, Heather, and this is what you'll often find if you take a test. So if I was looking at that, I would say, well, and I know Heather, I would guess you're a 2. But I would say that 3 and 2, one of those is her personality, and the other one is her wing. The 9 could very much come from being an unhealthy 3 wing, because 3s go to 9 in unhealth. And so they go to the worst parts of 9, like the undecisiveness, often not choosing to act, those sorts of things. So that's where that can come from. So that's interesting. I think it has to go back to, Heather, that what you identify with as your deepest desire and your deepest fear. So if you would say, like, the basic fear of a 2 is being unworthy of being loved or not needed, and their basic desire is to be loved and wanted. If that resonates with you, and like that message that you need to hear that you are wanted, if that really resonates with you, that's probably where you land. So I would just say, keep digging in. If you really want to dive into it for your business, this is the book. I could talk about this all day long. I could talk about how it applies to your business and your life. But going back to what somebody asks, it's vital that you figure yourself out first. The biggest gift in all of this is self understanding and being able to recognize when you're healthy and unhealthy. Because remember, none of us want to admit or face the fact that we have crappy things about us, but we all do. We are all messed up. We are all screwed up. We're all a little bit, crazy, essentially. And there is no number that is better than another number. They're all equally beautiful and equally messy, really. But when we can identify with ourselves and say, okay, these are my tendencies. There is some wounding there. These are the things that I need to hear. And this is how I act when I'm healthy and unhealthy. It is incredibly transformational. I've seen marriages changed with this knowledge. I've seen relationships with people, with women changed because of this knowledge. And I think it is truly can be life-changing if you really get to know yourself. It's just that most of us run from our true self or run from knowing our true self because we don't want to deal with our stuff, really, is what it is. Yeah. So I hope that this was helpful to you. Anna, and I love this. Anna says, my son, he's almost 6, is also a 3. So he's an achiever, performer, and he's very concerned about us being proud of him. And he did a good job. He's very motivated by sticker charts and achievements. Yes, that's very much a 3. Also, 1s love stickers too. I just want to let you know. Because if you get a sticker, it means you were good, right? And 1s like to be good. So that's funny. But if you look at a 3, their basic fear is being without value. Their basic desire is to be valuable. That's so important. But remember, one of the things they need to know is that they're loved for just who they are. Not anything that they do, but who they are. But they can be very motivated by things like that. It's pretty awesome. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. I hope that you had you learned a lot and your wheels are probably turning. Next week sometime I will probably post a link to all of my favorite resources. I'm not going to do it now because I don't usually work on Friday morning. But I really wanted to give you all the information. I didn't want to leave you with just half of it because I think it's helpful. I think it's a great conversation for you and your team and your spouse and your kids even. I really love watching older kids, like in their teens, kind of see themselves in this. It's really fun to watch because they just get a lot of clarity, I think, and a lot of answers. So anyways, thanks for joining me. I hope this was helpful. If you did not watch last night, you've got to start with last night and then come back here and get all the information. So essentially it's 2 hours of pretty intense, lots of information, but hope it was helpful. I hope that you take it and learn more about yourself first. That's really the most important thing, and do the deep dive. And I can't wait to hear what comes of it and how it helps you grow and your team grow and just really your relationships grow. So I love y'all. Have a great week. And I guess I'm going to go get Christmas out because I've lost my envelope of mine. I'm not ready, but I need to just because time-wise, I don't have any other time. We have friends in town next weekend. Then it's Thanksgiving. And then the week after that, I think we're doing a big event at my house, like a shopping, thing. So I'm I got to get it all done. So I guess I'm going to go put on a Christmas record and see what happens. Maybe I'll get in the mood. Okay. Love y'all. Talk to you later.